heard this bumper music before. There seem to be a few minor differences, however. Let's talk about them. You may find it helpful to follow along with this episode, number 8, on our website, musicstudent101.com. Here are your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
All right, so let's talk about minor keys.
Yes, and just so you know, if you haven't listened to our segment on major scales, this might be a good time to do that.
Right, because a lot of the way we think about minor keys is in relation to the way we think about major keys. So it's very important to sort of understand this relationship. So if you remember that when I played our major scale, and that is just C major, so it's all white keys on the piano. It is all natural notes. There's no sharps, no flats. Remember we talked about how the reason that makes a major scale is because of this particular pattern of half steps and whole steps that are inherent in those notes I just played. So starting on C, we go up a whole step, up a whole step, up a half step, and then up a whole step, up one more whole step, up yet another whole step, and then this final half step brings us back to our tonic note of C. So that pattern is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half.
Right.
Well, and we also talked about how, once we have that pattern, we can transpose it in various number of ways all the way around, start it literally on any note we want, and as long as we're maintaining that pattern, we will get major scales starting on any other note of all the 12 notes.
So take that same pattern, start it on E, start it on F sharp, start it on G, whatever. That'll be the major scale you're in.
Absolutely, as long as that half-step pattern is maintained.
Correct.
Well, if I take this particular scale that has no sharps and no flats in it, and it's going from C to C, and instead of starting and ending on C, I'm going to start and end on A. But I'm not going to transpose that to A, which would be adding 3 sharps. I'm going to still play no sharps and no flats. All natural notes, all white keys on the keyboard.
So all the same notes from the C major scale, that is all the white keys, but we're starting from a different place. We're starting from A. If we were actually transposing, we'd be starting from A, but preserving the same pattern of whole steps and half steps, which is not what we're doing. That would put us in the key of A major.
Exactly. So what this is going to do is this is going to shift the pattern of half steps and whole steps from the major scale, and we'll have a new pattern. So starting on A, I'll go up a whole step, up a half step, and then up a whole step, up another whole step, up another half step, and then up another whole step, and then one last whole step brings us back to our tonic, a scale that we refer to as A natural minor. And it sounds kind of sad. Mm-hmm. The conventional wisdom about minor keys is that they tend to sound very sad.
That's very sad.
Yes, I'm so depressed.
Very somber.
Yes, very somber.
But it's still my favorite. I still prefer minor keys over major keys for some reason. And I'm not a very sad person. I'm not an emo kind of guy,
No, me either. I don't consider myself particularly depressed, but I think that the minor scales, on first blush at least, tend to have more of a availability of a greater range of emotion and more subtle emotions that are possible in them. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily true after you've been composing for a while. You start to see that the major scale it doesn't have to be just all happy. There's some subtleties there as well, but especially on first blush, I think a lot of people find the minor scale to feel more profound.
Right.
Not just sad versus happy, but more profound.
More deep.
Right, yeah. All right, so we have this new scale now, and we have this new fingerprint. What is that fingerprint, Jeremy?
That would be whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step.
Right. So we have this new pattern, new scale, new sad, depressing sounding scale. And just like we did with the major scales, where we went around the circle of fifths, adding sharps as we go clockwise, removing sharps or adding flats as we go counterclockwise, and creating all of these new scales of a major scale on any note we want, we can do the same thing with the minor scale, with just a little bit of a change in our process. So if you're thinking of the circle of fifths with C major at the 12 o'clock position, that's going to put A major at around 4 o'clock. Just think of rotating that so that A minor is now in your 12 o'clock position.
Okay.
That is the natural minor scale that has no sharps or flats, A natural minor.
So if we're looking at a clock face, and now the A is at the top of the clock face, or the A minor, then we continue the same pattern as we would have with the major scales. We go up a fifth.
Right. So we can count up 5, and point of order with the major scales and with the minor scales. When I say count up 5, I mean that your tonic note is 1.
Right.
So don't start on A and then count up and have B be 1. You should start with your tonic, and A is 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that you land on scale degree 5, the 5th note of the scale, what we call the dominant. So we land on 5, that gives us E. So I can play this scale from E to E now, and I'm going to make one single change every time. I'm going to sharp the second.
Okay.
Which means I'm going to raise scale degree 2, the second note of every scale, by a half step. So I'm going to play E, and rather than F, I'm going to play F sharp, raising that by a half step, sharping the second.
And this is after we've gotten through the A minor scale.
Right.
We don't sharpen on the second one on A minor.
No.
This is once we've gotten to that 1 o'clock position, so to speak, on the circle.
Exactly. Yeah. A minor has no sharps or flats.
Right.
Right. So we're going to go E, sharp the second, F sharp, and then G, A, B, C, D, E. And I now have the E minor scale. We can do this again if I'm on E and I count up to the 5th scale degree. So E is 1, F sharp is 2, G is 3, A is 4, B is 5. On 5, I am on B. I'm going to play the B scale by sharping the second again. So B, C sharp rather than C. Sharp the second note. B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp. Just like in the major scales, once these sharps come in, they don't leave as long as you're going clockwise around our circle.
Right.
F sharp, G, A, B. And I have the B minor scale. All right, and so you can keep going around that pattern, counting up 5, playing the scale on that note, and then sharpening the second note you play, the scale degree 2, and get all the sharp keys in the minor scale. You'll eventually land on A sharp minor, which is a key that is all sharps, just the way A natural minor is a key of all natural notes. Something else that's neat you may have noticed here, what was that first note we sharped when we went to E minor?
That would be an F sharp.
And what was the second note we sharped when we went to B?
C sharp.
What do you think we will sharp when we go to F sharp?
I would think that would be the G sharp.
Very good. So you'll notice that this is the same order of sharps that we had with the major scales.
Fat Charlie goes down and eats breakfast.
Yes, absolutely. Fat cows get drunk after eating berries.
Yes.
All that good stuff. You don't have to learn a new order of sharps. It's the same stuff. We've just shifted everything down. So all of these sharps and things, they're going to fall into place just like they did with the major scales. They're just going to fall into a different scale.
And can the same be said of the order of flats as well?
Absolutely. So let's do some flats really quick.
Okay.
We're going to start with A minor, no sharps or flats. And just like we did before, we're going to count up 4. Again, when I say count up 4, I'm counting scale degrees. So A is the tonic. It's scale degree 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's a D.
That is a D. We're going to play this scale starting on D, but we're going to do one little thing. We are going to flat our 6th note. So scale degree 6th, the 6th note in our scale, the 6th note we play, we are going to lower that by a half step.
Okay.
So we're going to play D, E, F, G, A. And now that we're on our 6th note, which is B, we're going to lower that by a half step and play B flat. And then continue on a whole step above that, which is C, and a whole step above that, which leads us back to our tonic D. And we have D minor, which has 1 flat, and that flat is B flat.
That was fun. Let's do another.
Let's do another. So if we're on D, we're going to count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We land on G, and we're going to play the scale we just played, but from G to G. So G, A, B flat, the B flat stays there. B flat, C, D, and this puts us on our 6th note. And that 6th note, we are going to lower a half step and have E flat. And then F, G. And we have the key of G minor. Very easy.
All right.
Right? So, and again, we can keep going up this pattern, keep doing this over and over until we reach A flat minor, which will be a key, a natural minor key that is all flats. All the notes in it will be flat. Just like A minor, all the notes are natural, and in A sharp minor, all the notes are sharp. Really easy. And just like the order of sharps, our order of flats, B, E, A, D, G, C, F, will be the same thing. We'll the order of flats will come in. We will have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, F flat.
Okay, well, I think this is making sense so far, but here's a problem that I think a lot of people are going to run into.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We talked about major scales and minor scales and their key signatures. But what if I look at a key signature and it has just 1 sharp in it? Well, we discussed earlier that could be a G major.
It could indeed.
Or it could be an E minor.
It could indeed.
Now, that would mean that the G major and E minor have that in common. That means they had that 1 sharp, that F sharp, the E minor and the G major.
This is what we mean by a relative minor. You'll notice that, as Jeremy was saying, we have a whole bunch of minor scales now, and they share key signatures with our major scales. They share the order of flats, the order of sharps, all that still applies. The only thing that we really have changed is the tonic note. So when a key has the same key signature, but a different tonic note, meaning a different note that you started the scale on, then we call that relationship relative. So for example, A minor is the relative minor of C major.
Because it's all the same notes.
Exactly. B minor, relative minor of D major. If you were to go around the sharps until you find B, you'll find that B minor has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp, same way that D major was.
Here's the problem a lot of you guys are going to run into early on. You're looking at a key signature, it's got 1 sharp or whatever, but for this example, let's just say it has 1 sharp. How do I tell if that's a G major or an E minor?
That's a very good question. It's not something that you can necessarily determine just by looking at the key signature.
Right. So you have to kind of use the other notes in the music as a context. I personally found it pretty useful to look at those first couple of measures, particularly the first measure, and find out a majority of those notes, in that measure, what those notes kind of make up. What chord comes out of those notes.
Right.
So if I'm primarily singing G's, B's, and D's, the notes that make up the G major chord, particularly on the downbeats, then I've got a pretty good idea that we're in the G major scale. However, if I see the E's, G's, and B's, the notes that make up the E minor chord, then it's probably a good bet that we are in E minor.
Right, yeah. That's a pretty good clue.
Well, I was also going to say another thing that that it kind of works is like when you're thinking about the very beginning of the piece of music and the very end. Oftentimes in traditional music, it'll begin and end in whatever key it's in.
Right.
You know, so
Oftentimes.
if you're listening to it and it sounds minor, you can tell when something sounds minor.
Yes, and if you're good at looking for cadences at the end of phrases, is it going from a 5 chord to a 1 chord in a major key, or a 5 chord from 1 chord in a minor key? Not always a sure thing. It can modulate, but often, especially in the first couple of phrases, that can be a really good pointer. Also, if you listen to the music, I don't think many people, once they listen to music, have a huge problem being able to tell a minor key from a major one.
Right.
Not generally. It can be tricky in some instances, but if you have an ability to listen to a recording of what you have, then telling which key you're in becomes kind of a piece of cake. And this is one of those things, like everything else we do in music, it takes practice, being able to look at a score and say, oh, that's not E major, that's C sharp minor. But for the time being, it's very important to be able to find these relative majors and minors really quickly from each other. So because if you're looking at a key signature and it has A sharp, 3 sharps in it, that could be A major, that could be some minor. Well, what minor might that be? Well, here's the thing: the way to find the relative minor of a major scale. For example, the one, let's just pick one at random.
Let's use F major.
All right, the relative minor of an F major scale. What we are going to do is we're going to take the tonic.
That being F.
The being F, right. We are going to count down 3 half steps.
Which was a minor third interval.
Which was a minor third interval. Very, very good. So we're going to count from F down to E, which is 1 half step, E down to E flat, which is 2 half steps, and E flat down to D, which is 3 half steps. And we've landed on D. One thing to keep in mind, make sure that the letter names have changed twice.
Right.
So you've gone from F through E and E flat or D sharp, it doesn't really matter, but down to D. So you've gone F, down to E, and down to D. You've changed the letter that you're saying twice.
Okay.
That becomes important. But so then once you've done that, you are on D, and this is the relative minor of F major. So this is the minor scale that is going to have the same key signature as F major. And if you go back and you want to plot out your circle of fifths, you'll find this really quickly. Yes, F major has 1 flat and is B flat. D minor, 1 flat is B flat.
So if you want to find the relative minor of a major key, you can go down a minor third from the root, or you can go up a major 6 from the root.
Right, yes. It's just going down a minor third is going to turn out to be easier. When you're going to up a major 6, you're running the risk of making simple mistakes. It's more risky to do that. You know, if you're really, really good at counting, then you can certainly go up a major 6.
It's the same note either way.
It's the same note. You'll end on the same note.
Okay. What about the inverse? What if I want to find out the relative major of a minor key?
So if you want to find the relative major of a minor key, you essentially just reverse this process. So give me a random minor key, Jeremy.
Let's do, let me throw something at you. Let's do C minor.
Okay, C minor. If you want to plot up your circle of fifths in the minor scale, you'll find that C minor has 3 flats. Not that matters. All right, let's say at the moment, let's say C minor. Again, instead of counting down, we're just going to count up 3 half steps. And again, make sure that you change letter names twice.
Okay.
So we're going to go C, up 1 half step, which is D flat or C sharp. Doesn't really matter at this point. We're going to go from D flat up 2 half steps and land on D. And then we are going to go from D up our 3rd half step and land on E flat. And this time it does matter. because it has to be E flat because we have to change our letter names twice.
Okay.
Right? If we call that D sharp, we've said C, we've said D, but that's only we've only changed once.
Yeah, you don't want to say the same. If you're counting up a scale, you don't want to use the same letter twice.
Exactly. That's why, we want to use diatonic stuff to find diatonic scales. So we call that E flat. We've gone from C up through D up to E flat. Our letter names have changed twice. We said C, we said D, we said E. E flat at least. And that is the relative major scale that has the same key signature as C minor. It is E flat major, which has 3 flats: B flat, E flat, and A flat.
Then before we move on, we'll go ahead and review one more time. If you want to find the relative major key, the relative major of a minor key, you go up from the root of that minor key, 3 half steps. That note you land on will be the tonic.
Making sure you've changed letter names twice.
Yes. That letter you land on will be the tonic of the major key it's in. And likewise, if you want to find the relative minor of a major key, you move down 3 half steps. And that note you land on will be the tonic of the minor scale.
Right. Again, making sure that you've changed the letter names twice.
Gotcha.
And incidentally, finding the relative major, this is the same process we use if you would just want to find the minor scale. If somebody says, what's the key signature for... Give me well, you've already done that. Let me try.
A good minor key? Okay, so what if some random guy just comes up to me on the streets and sticks a gun to my head and says, I'm going to kill you if you don't tell me what the relative minor, what the C sharp minor scale is?
Right. Well, if somebody is running around the streets, pointing guns in people's heads and demanding key signatures, then society has definitely hit a new low.
I think it's met a new high.
It met a new high. We will execute you if you can't tell us your key signatures.
If you're not smart enough, we'll kill you.
Right, yeah. Poor John, he said that G minor had 3 flats once, and we haven't seen him again. He's disappeared.
Right.
It's like Big Brother, but no, if you just want to know, what is C sharp minor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we use the same process that we use to find the relative major. It's sort of the same thing. So you're just going to take the tonic of whatever minor scale you're trying to find.
In this case, C sharp.
C sharp, and you're going to apply this counting up process. So from C sharp, count up 3 half steps. So our first half step brings us to D. Our second half step brings us to D sharp, and our third half step will bring us to E. And we have changed letter names twice: C sharp, D, E. So there you go. E major is the relative major of C sharp minor. So you just plug in the key signature of E. So all right. So if you want to find the key signature of C sharp minor, then you think, okay, you count up 3 half steps, you land on E. You think of the key signature of E, which is what?
Key signature of E, that would be 4 sharps.
4 sharps. F sharp, G sharp, C sharp, and D sharp. And that are the same 4 sharps that are going to be in C sharp minor.
So what if the same guy comes up to me with the same gun, and instead he has...
Somebody needs to arrest this dude.
They
Jesus.
do, but in the meantime, he's at large, and he's come up to you again, and you got the first answer right, but now he still wants to kill you. So he has in his hand this piece of paper that has a key signature on it. And this key signature has 3 sharps in it.
Right.
And he says, what minor key is this in?
What minor key is this in? Well, if he does that, then what you're going to need to do is you've got the key signature, right? You've got 3 sharps. So what you need to find is the minor scale that goes with it.
Right.
So we would take the major key signature that has 3 sharps. What is that again?
Yeah, that would be A major.
Right. So we take A major, and we count down our 3 half steps. A, down 1 half step to G sharp, down 2 half steps to G, and down our last half step to F sharp. And this is another one of these cases you have to say F sharp instead of G flat to make sure that your letter names have changed twice.
Gotcha.
From A down to G down to an F. And there you have it. F sharp minor has 3 sharps, just like A major. And those sharps will be F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp.
Well, that's cool if someone knows their major key signatures. But if you don't even know your major key signatures, I got a little technique you can use.
Wow. Okay. So if you don't know, and we are not advocating you not knowing your major key signatures
By
here,
any means.
people, just to get that clear. But if you're experiencing selective amnesia from the stress of the gun in your face,
Which happens.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to do this with a gun in your face, but just in case, if you're looking at a flat key signature, and say, for example, we have 3 flats, well, you take that very last flat, which in this case, based on our order of flats, Big Ed and Dan go camping frequently. Big Ed and, that's an A flat. The third one's an A flat.
Mm-hmm.
Take that note and go up 4 half steps. That's a major third from that note, from that A flat. The note you land on, in this case C, will be the root note or the tonic of whatever relative minor scale or key signature you're trying to find. Likewise, in the case of sharps, the last sharp from left to right would be the second of the minor scale you're trying to find. So in the case where maybe you see just 1 sharp, well, that sharp would be an F sharp because of the order of sharps. You go down a major second from that, and that is the minor key you're in, E minor.
Yes. Very good. Yeah. Isn't it great how many different ways we can think of this stuff?
There's always more than one way to skin that musical cat.
Absolutely. And so the easiest mistake to make when you're doing any of this, going from relative majors and minors, is to count up when you should have counted down, and count down when you should have counted up.
Right.
So try to think of it this way. Try to think of a capital M for major, and think of a lowercase m for minor directly below that. So the major is always above the minor. So if you're in a major key and you need to find the relative minor, you need to go down, because major is above minor, so you have to go down and get minor. If you're in a minor key, or if you need to find a minor key, if you need the key signature for a minor key, like our guy with the gun says, what's C sharp minor? You're going to need to go up.
Okay.
Because because what you need is that key signature from the major scale, which you've hopefully memorized, and major is above minor, so you will have to go up. Just envision a capital M and a lowercase m with the major above the minor.
Okay.
And that should help you keep it pretty straight.
And in general, anytime you're going from if you're playing a minor chord, for example, you play like an A minor chord for us, Matt.
A minor.
By sharpening that third, we'll get an A major.
Right.
So anytime you go from minor to major, just think of yourself as rising. You're raising.
Right.
Going
Yeah.
up.
It even sounds kind of like an ascension.
Yeah.
In some kind of interesting way.
Very nice.
Something that's much easier than this, actually, is what we sort of consider the other type of relationship between major and minor, which is the parallel minor. And really, the crux of this relationship could not be simpler. Technically, it is a minor that shares the same tonic, but therefore has a different key signature.
Right.
Remember, the relative major and minors had the same key signature, but had 2 different tonics. Well, this is just the reverse of that. The same tonic, different key signature. All that means is the parallel major of F minor is F major.
Right.
Parallel minor of C major, C minor. You're just going from major to minor, just up and down like that. So much easier than it sounds, right? With that big, huge definition. So to find the key signature of a parallel minor, if you're saying, well, what's the parallel minor of D major, or find me the parallel minor of D major. Well, parallel minor of D major, D minor.
Right.
You know that. Once you've established that, D minor, now you're just looking for a scale. So you do the same thing we always do. We have D minor. We're going to count up 3 half steps from D, making sure we change the letter names twice. We're going to find F. And so we're going to plug in the key signature for F, which is B flat. And there is D minor. That sounds like a multi-step process, and it really kind of is. But just remember that most of that process is something that hopefully you've already learned how to do.
Right.
So say the parallel minor of G, is G minor. That's simple. So now you're just looking for G minor, which is something you can do. Count up 3 half steps. There's your key signature. Put it in.
So we have 2 kinds of minors: the relative minor and the parallel minor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically all we need to know about the minor scales at this point, except for maybe the types of minor scales.
Right, and so this is very important. All of these scales we've been talking about that share key signatures with the major scale, they're referred to as natural minors.
The natural minor, yes.
Yeah, you'll also hear the term pure minor. Means the same thing, and it just means the minor scale which shares some key signature with the major scale, and we haven't done anything to it. Occasionally, we will do something to it. Very often, in fact, we will do something to it. One of the main things we'll do is when we take this natural minor, and I'll just keep it simple and do A minor.
Can we relate the natural minor to the major scale right quick?
Sure.
So basically, the natural minor if you take a major scale and you flat scale degrees 3, 6, and 7, then you have the natural minor scale.
Yeah.
Of that major scale.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is sort of a parallel way of thinking about it.
Uh-huh.
So we have the A natural minor scale. And one of the things that you'll see happening a lot is that this scale degree 7, you may remember that we mentioned that is just a subtonic right now. It's not actually a leading tone. That will just, in a very, very arbitrary, no system involved, just because we freaking feel like it, we will raise that a half step so that we do have that leading tone.
The resolution, yeah.
Yeah, so now we have what we call a harmonic minor scale, which is just the natural minor scale, but we have raised that 7th so we can have a leading tone.
So it sounds kind of like Middle Eastern or...
Kind of Middle Eastern, yeah. And when you get into actual music, it becomes really helpful because you can really resolve back to your tonic very well, because you'll end up having a chord based on the dominant.
That's another good way to think of it as a harmonic minor scale. That's
right.
Harmonically, it works.
So that's one of the major things we do of it. Another thing we do is, and this came about because when we have this harmonic minor scale, you'll notice that there's a minor third in here. Although diatonically, if we're trying to keep, all 7 notes with some flatter sharps in it, which is what we're trying to do, in case you haven't noticed, that note becomes this really weird interval called an augmented second. And historically, music scholars didn't really like that. So one of the other things you'll see happen is, in addition to raising this 7th, you will also raise scale degree 6, the 6th note. And this is what we call a melodic minor. So in that case, I have raised the 6th note of our natural minor scale and the 7th note of our natural minor scale. And we have a melodic minor. Quick little fun fact about a melodic minor: when it's ascending, the scale degree 6 and scale degree 7th have both been raised. But you lower them back down to natural minor when it's descending.
Both of them?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you're descending, you just have a natural minor scale again. So it would sound something like this. Starting with scale degree 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, raise 6, raise 7th, 8, or 1, tonic again. And going back down, 1, natural 7th, not raised, natural 6th, not raised, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So just to put all these next to each other so we can all hear the difference, let's do that one more time.
Right.
From the A natural minor, let's just hear the A natural minor by itself.
All right. A natural minor, ascending and descending.
And then the harmonic minor.
A harmonic minor, ascending and descending.
And then the melodic minor.
And melodic minor, ascending and descending. Yeah. Very nice, very easy. And of course, remember that these can be transposed anywhere, any minor scale. If you're talking about G sharp natural minor, and there's definitely such a thing. If you want to make G sharp harmonic minor, you just take that 7th note and raise it a half step.
Right.
You'll find yourself occasionally having a note that is flat and raising it a half step means making it a natural. So it's, try not to think about it as sharping so much as raising.
Okay.
And same thing with the melodic minor. You will, you can make any minor scale a melodic minor by raising the 6th and the 7th note. Just remember to lower them back down if you happen to be descending.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's all we have to say about the minor scale.
Right, and this is definitely confusing stuff, and we totally understand that. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, always feel free to contact us.
Look on our website. We'll have graphics, notations kind of discussing each of these scales. You can actually look at a representation of it.
Absolutely.
So we hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be back for more later.
If you found this information helpful, please share it with a fellow musician. We love new listeners. For questions or comments, you can reach us at info@musicstudent101.com.